Hey everyone, and welcome to this explainer. Today, we are diving deep into the dramatic history and the incredibly complex geopolitics behind the nation of Côte d'Ivoire.
To start things off, I want you to think about your morning routine for a second. The cup of coffee you might have just drank, or maybe that piece of chocolate you're going to enjoy after lunch. Have you ever actually stopped to wonder exactly where the world gets its cocoa? Well, the answer, overwhelmingly, is Côte d'Ivoire. It is the absolute titan of West African agriculture and literally the #1 exporter of cocoa in the entire world. It's also a massive global player when it comes to coffee and cashew nuts. But getting to that top spot and, trying to stay there is a story filled with incredible economic highs and some truly devastating political lows.
So here is our roadmap for today's explainer. 1. Roots of the Ivory Coast. 2. The Golden Age. 3. Crash and identity crisis. 4. A nation divided by war. And 5. Rebuilding for the future. Let's get right into it.
Section 1. Roots of the Ivory Coast. Colonial beginnings.
Okay, so to really understand modern Côte d'Ivoire, we kind of have to rewind and look at how its borders were actually formed. Long before any European contact, this region was this thriving network of alliances and expanding tribes, with the Akan group really dominating coastal trade. Now, the very first outside contacts began way back in the 15th century, when Portuguese navigators arrived. Fast forward to the 1840s, and French explorers began signing treaties with local Akan chiefs. By 1893, France formally annexed the great Akan state of Saint-Louis, consolidating the whole region into a colony. And it wouldn't be until 1960, amidst sweeping changes all across Africa, that the nation finally gained its independence from France.
Moving on to Section 2. The Golden Age. Economic boom. So when independence finally came, it brought this massive, sweeping wave of optimism. And at the center of it all was the nation's very first president, Félix Houphouët-Boigny. He led the country from 1960 right up until his death in 1993. Now, he was affectionately known as the father of the poor because of his philanthropic nature. But politically, he was an incredibly savvy leader. He had a highly unique, and as you'll see, highly successful, strategy for building a prosperous nation.
Houphouët-Boigny's strategy was honestly fascinating. He didn't close the country off. Instead, he enthusiastically threw the doors open, welcoming foreign labor from neighboring countries to come and help build the nation. He supported the creation of massive agricultural plantations and very cleverly capitalized on soaring international prices for cocoa and coffee. And, during the 1970s, this approach led to an absolute economic boom. We're talking full employment, widespread lifestyle stability, and a massive influx of foreign investment. For a long, long time, this strategy worked brilliantly. Which brings us to Section 3, Crash and Identity Crisis, the Economic Fall. But as we know, economies can be pretty fragile. Relying so heavily on global commodities comes with a massive, massive risk. In the late 1970s and 1980s, global cocoa prices completely crashed. And because the country's economic engine was tied directly to those prices, it sparked a severe, really crippling economic crisis. Adding fuel to the fire, Houphouët-Boigny died in 1993. This left a massive political vacuum after decades of centralized control.
Amidst all this economic hardship and political instability, a new and highly charged ideological concept started to emerge: ivoirité, or Ivorianness. Remember that massive foreign workforce we just talked about, the one that was welcomed during the economic boom? Well, as jobs vanished and money dried up, the narrative entirely shifted. Ivoirité became a way to delineate who was considered a true Ivorian and who wasn't. It effectively acted to exclude foreigners and political rivals from participating in the nation's wealth and politics. When you put these two eras side by side, the shift is pretty stark, right? During the Golden Age, we saw open borders, foreign investment, and this inclusive agricultural growth that basically drove the whole region forward. But then, during the crisis era, the focus shifted to ivoirity, exclusion, and xenophobia, all amidst a really sharp economic decline. This shift in national identity, going from inclusion to exclusion, was the direct catalyst that ended up plunging the country into civil conflict.
Section 4. A nation divided by war, the civil conflicts.
So this political instability basically boiled over in 1999 with a military coup, which was actually the first of its kind in Francophone Africa. Tensions just kept mounting, and by 2002, an armed rebellion literally divided the nation in two. You had the rebel-held North and the government-controlled South. Years of violent quarrels and really uneasy peace deals followed, leading right up to a deeply disputed presidential election in 2010. This eventually required an intervention by UN and French international forces in 2011 just to resolve it. To really grasp the breaking point of that 2010 crisis, let's look at exactly how the election results were handled. You basically had two entirely different official outcomes. On one hand, the Independent Electoral Commission declared Alassane Ouattara the winner. But on the other side, the Constitutional Council annulled results from several regions and confirmed the incumbent Laurent Gbagbo as the winner. So you literally have both sides claiming legitimate victory and authority. This dispute triggered a second, deeply bloody phase of the civil war. Ultimately, it was only after months of intense fighting and international intervention that Ouattara was able to take power and Gbagbo was sent to the International Criminal Court in The Hague.
Finally, Section 5, Rebuilding for the Future, a Unified Path.
All right, so today, Côte d'Ivoire is working incredibly hard to forge a unified path forward. But they face a really unique challenge and a huge opportunity. Look at this. Over 79% of the population is under 35 years old. This youth bulge is literally the ultimate cliffhanger for the country's stability. If these young people don't have access to education and jobs, they run a massive risk of becoming a source of unrest. But if they're integrated properly, they represent a massive, unstoppable economic engine. The government is acutely aware of this, obviously, and they've put some specific steps in place to try and ensure stability. First, they've established a national employment agency to assist with job placement. Second, they are heavily utilizing apprenticeship-based training programs. It's kind of this perfect win-win where small businesses reduce recruitment risks while young people get to learn real trades without the immediate risk of unemployment. And third, it's all tied into a national development plan, the PND, with the ultimate goal of fully transitioning into an emerging economy. But you know, rebuilding a nation isn't just about the economy, right? It's heavily about culture. And the youth of Côte d'Ivoire are absolutely leading the way in creating a shared identity. We're seeing these vibrant cultural unifiers emerge. You've got movements like Zouglo, which started totally underground and tackles the social ills of the youth through this really lively group dance. There's Mapuka, the deliberate dance of the women. Soukous, this amazing Congolese fusion that uses modern synthesizers. And of course, Coupé de Calais, a massively popular modern pop offshoot. These musical phenomena aren't just entertainment. They serve as a really powerful, unifying force that bridges across ethnic and regional divides. So, this brings us to the ultimate question we really have to ask as we look at the future of this fascinating country. Can a shared culture and a booming, energetic youth demographic finally forge a lasting national identity? It's a huge question. After a history defined by economic miracles, some truly tragic divisions, and a really brutal struggle to define who actually belongs, the answer lies squarely in the hands of this next generation. Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer. I really hope you walk away today with a deeper, much clearer understanding of the incredibly complex forces shaping Côte d'Ivoire right now.